Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at ship's vehicles in Traveler. And this is not a ship's boat or a rescue pod or anything like that. I'm talking about actual vehicles you would have aboard your ship and then take the vehicle off the ship and drive around the planet. So most of our stuff is going to come from the Traveler Core Rulebook 2022 update. The field catalog's got a little bit more to add, so I'm going to take a look at that. But mainly what I want is out of this book. There might be one or two other options in vehicles, but I don't have that book yet. So the idea is this would be the vehicle that would be in the ship and then you would take to go to town or whatever it is you need to do once you got to planet. So I'm going to take a look at the various vehicles and some considerations such as storage and things like that, and make sure that you get the vehicle you want to get. And I'm going to explain some of the parameters making you decide what vehicle you want and don't want. For purposes of this video, I'm going to be talking about basically cargo space aboard a free trader. So roughly 60 tons of storage. I'm going to just use that as a thumbnail. I know that's not an exact number, but the free traders all have slightly different storage in their cargo holds rather. So I'm going to just use 60 tons as my base a little bit, and then explain to you why you want some vehicles and don't want others. Also, everybody who subscribed, thank you. I appreciate it. Channel's growing nicely. Thank you. Everybody who hasn't subscribed, come on in. We talk about games here a lot. In the next couple of days, I'm going to be putting up a free poll on my Patreon channel where you can go ahead and chime in on some stuff that you would like to see on my YouTube channel. I know I could do it through YouTube. I can do a poll, but Patreon is kind of becoming a landing spot for me, and this will be free. Even if you're not a member, you can go to the Patreon channel and go ahead and participate in the poll. So I'll be putting that up in the next few days. Also, Patreon, please take a look while you're there, see if there's anything there that's of interest to you, and help the channel grow that way as well. So that's all I've got to say on that topic. Back to the important stuff. Out of the 2022 Core Rulebook Update, Ship's Vehicles. All right, today's topic, ship's vehicles, and why do we care about them? Well, you care about them because they can really, literally, pun intended, drive your story. If you have an air raft and you need to move around a planet, especially if it's a low-tech planet, you can move around a lot faster than most of the natives would be able to. So that can really help your story. They could outrun news of bad deeds and things like that, depending on the tech level of the planet. They could also just move around to get to different towns for different deals, whatever they would need to do. So one of the first things you have to determine is what type of vehicle you're going to want. And here we are. And this is all out of the core rulebook. And my favorite vehicle, right there, very first one, the air raft. An open-top vehicle supported by anti-grav technology. Air rafts are capable of reaching orbit, but passengers must wear vac suits. They are ubiquitous, remarkably reliable, and flexible vehicles. Note, there's a cargo-carrying version of this. It has a crew of one, no passengers, and carries 1.5 tons of cargo. The stats in this, tech level 8, the skill you need is Flyer Grav. And I want to touch on the skills a little bit because I've got those marked as well in my little book here. You need to have the appropriate skill in order to use the vehicle. So there we are, Flyer Grav. I've already gone over the skills in some detail in a previous video, but I want to touch a little bit on Flyer because there are multiple types of skills under this set. It's kind of a cascade, what they used to call cascade in the old Mega Traveler. So your specialties under Flyer are airships, like dirigibles, grav vehicles, ornithopters, rotor for helicopters, and then, of course, winged vehicles. And it's important that you have the right skills. Somebody's got to have it in order to operate the vehicle. As long as we're in this section, I'm going to take a quick look at drive. And drive is another one of the old cascade skills. And here you have to choose on hovercraft. In this case, it rides on a cushion of air, not grav. Mole vehicle for cutting through earth-moving technologies, using earth-moving technologies. A tracked vehicle, a walker, or a wheeled vehicle. So you as the game master and the players have to get together and be sure that what they're buying is appropriate to their skills. You want to be sure that somebody can actually fly the air raft before they invest the 250,000 credits in the thing. Now, air raft is my personal favorite vehicle in Traveler. It's one of the things that really got me interested in Traveler, and I'm pretty excited about having air rafts in the game. The game I'm running right now, they haven't put any money into vehicles yet, but that's something I'm going to change for them. They're going to do a session 0 next time we play it, at least a half a game of session 0, where they're going to spend some of their ill-gotten loot and pick up some stuff. And one of the things I recommend is going to be an air raft. Interestingly, as we come down here, we see it's a crew of 1 and passengers are 5. 1, 2, and in the photo, or the picture rather, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I never understood why this wasn't a bench seat and this wasn't a bench seat, and they could just go in over the side of it, thus seating 7 plus the driver for a total of 8. So I have no problem if players want that. If they say, hey, wait a minute, we're going to spend a little extra and we're going to get the bigger carrying, that's fine. Necessarily limiting them as far as the weight of the other 2 people on board. But as it says in the notes, if you are going to take this thing up into orbit, you have to have spacesuits on because it's not a pressurized vehicle. I have also done it for players in the past where I have let them buy a pressurized version of this. They were familiar with it from our old Gamma World games. In that game, they're called bubble cars, and they were sealed and could go out into space on their own. So in Gamma World, you end up taking that to the moon and you deal. So I've allowed that version also in Traveler, but the one that's pictured here is the open-topped, where you'd all have to be wearing vac suits, and that's also fine. So I love the air raft. I'm going to encourage them to get an air raft. They're very fast. And now we're going to talk about shipping. The shipping 4 tons, that refers to how much tonnage it takes up in your cargo hold. So of the 60 tons I was talking about, 4 tons are going to be given up to the air raft and its attendant parts. That's important because, of course, now you can carry 4 tons less of any kind of cargo that you get. The upside is you can move your cargo around much further, at least smaller cargo, if you have this version. And then if you get the cargo version, you can move 1.5 tons. In this version, 1.5 tons in the cargo, and in this version, 1/4 ton, that would be in the trunk. So this is more of a get there with the people kind of vehicle, as opposed to taking actual stuff to market. For that, you would need the air raft. If you wanted to stay with an air raft, you would need the cargo air raft. Now we get to the ATV. This is an enclosed, pressurized, all-terrain ground vehicle. The vehicle is capable of floating on calm water, has a built-in set of sensors and communication equipment, making it ideal for exploration. An ATV is a hard point for a turret, but does not normally come with a weapon. My players are going to want a weapon on it. Tracked version of the ATV is available, and this uses the drive track skill. This uses the drive wheel skill. So again, you've got to be sure they have the appropriate skill in order to drive the vehicle. Otherwise, you're going to have to find some NPC they can hire on who can drive it for them. Kind of silly to own the vehicle but not be able to drive it. And both these skills are skills you can train up in during your long time in jump space. So this has a crew of 1, the operator, and then passengers are 7 and can carry 2.5 tons of cargo. And the shipping in your hold on this one is 10 tons. So it's going to take up 10 tons of cargo space. So my 60-ton cargo bay just went down to being a 50-ton cargo bay. So that's definitely something you want to think about before you put an ATV in there. Next one we're going to take a look at is the Brutus Heavy Cargo Truck. This guy is a beast. While lacking the glamour of armored vehicles and aircraft, the ability to deliver supplies and ammunition to forward bases, not to mention shipping out wounded, is a fundamental requirement for any mercenary force not wanting to rely on their employers. Truck is large, built with the assumption that a mercenary force needs the greatest carrying capability with as few separate vehicles as possible. So it's possible to get this beast. And the ATV over here costs us 155,000 credits. It's possible to get this beast. It'll carry 1 with passengers of 2, but of course, if you reconfigure it to carry wounded or other troops, then of course you could reconfigure that. Its cargo space is 12.5 tons, and its shipping space is 40 tons. So this is a big beast. This is not something they're ordinarily just going to pick up and say, hey, well, we've got this Brutus Heavy Cargo Truck. Very specialized reasons to have this truck aboard their ship, and it's not something I would ordinarily expect to see, but it is a choice for them. And this guy costs 241,000 credits. Now we go to the ever-popular cargo lifter, made famous in the film Aliens, the second in the Alien installment. Ripley famously battles the alien queen in something that looks remarkably like this. A common sight around starports and loading bays, the cargo lifter stands about 3 meters high and is equipped with 2 heavy-duty manipulator arms. Operator can use the strength of the cargo lifter to move containers and other heavy objects quickly and efficiently. A sealed version can be purchased for an extra 70,000 credits, which includes short-term life support and vacuum protection. But this upgrade removes the cargo space. So you can carry a little bit of cargo in here with it, a quarter ton. But the only one in this thing is, of course, the crew, the operator. And this guy would take up 3 tons. This guy costs you 70,000 credits. This would be worth it as far as I'm concerned, simply because when you're on planet, you want to be able to get the stuff off the ship pretty quickly. And at only a shipping volume, taking up 3 tons of your cargo space, again, if you have 60 tons cargo space to start, you're only giving up 3 for a very quick unloader. So this is one that I do recommend that players really look at and pick up. Now we come to the G-Bike. Why do I include the G-Bike? That's a sport thing. Well, I include it because back when Star Wars Return of the Jedi landed in 1983, my players were crazy about G-Bikes. There were a few things around in Traveler at the time that approximated these things. They got real popular with my guys for the next year or two after that film released in 83. And not so much now, but it is an option. This is a very quick way to get around. It's only designed for one person and takes up 2 tons of hull storage and can carry a half a ton of material. If you need something there fast, and fun, this is the vehicle for you. At only 46,000 credits, this would be equivalent of somebody aboard the ship storing their motorcycle and taking it with them, and then when they get out to a planet, they just take the G-Bike out for some joyrides and things like that. So this, to my mind, would be primarily just a recreational vehicle, but it could be more than that, depending on what the campaign was calling for and the need. So I know as a game master, I could easily write in a need for the G-Bike if it happened to be aboard the ship. And again, you need the flyer grab skill for this guy, and he costs 46,000 credits. I like the G-Bike. I'm going to kind of throw this in front of my players too and see if there's anything there that any of them is interested in taking. So then we come down to a few more. These aren't really things that I would necessarily consider ordinary in a ship, but could happen. You've got a Greco ground all-terrain assault vehicle, which would take up 4.5 tons of your cargo space, and then the Jabba the Hutt gun skiff, which would take up 10 tons. Those are possible, but not likely. The G-Racer I consider very specialized. If somebody wanted to have one, I'd have no problem with it. But again, that's an almost complete recreational vehicle. But if you have to be there fast, I guess it would be useful. So then personal land yacht I'm not going to bother with. And then, of course, the G-Carrier, which is an armored fighting vehicle. Again, if these are just normal merchants or just travelers out and about, I don't know that they'd want a G-Carrier. But it is still something to be aware of. Okay, now we're going to take a look at 1 or 2 of the vehicles out of the field catalog that was out last year. I include some of these vehicles just as a way to look at it. Not that they'd be ordinarily included in a Traveler campaign, but if you are running kind of a pseudo-mercenary campaign, you might want to stick a few of these in your cargo hold against a later date. So we've got the fast attack vehicle, which is just a wheeled vehicle. You would need the drive wheeled skill for that. It carries the 1 passenger, it mounts some guns, and takes up 3 tons in your cargo hold. So I could see some uses for that depending on what the players were planning, especially if there's a situation where there's a pirate base on planet that the players, for reasons, need to kind of crack open. This might be a vehicle to think about. The Field Ranger utility vehicle. If your players end up getting on a long exploratory thing, they may need to rent or buy one of these guys. This has a crew of 2 with no passengers, cargo space of 2.75 tons, and takes up 8 tons in the shipping hold. This is pretty specialized, but it is something that players may end up wanting to get against a future need, or if they have a very specific need at 44,400 credits, it's something that the players might find affordable. And then we got the Negav 10-wheel off-road transport vehicle. I don't see them really needing one of these guys unless it is some kind of mercenary thing. Merrick's light armor combat vehicle. And then the Tasman military grav platform. This is just basically a little grav vehicle that's been tricked out to be a gun platform. And then the Preplan fast attack platform. Much the same thing, but only 3 tons of space that you would need. And you need the, again, flyer grav skill. It costs you 1.195 mega credits, so it's expensive, and only takes up 3 tons. So these are just a few things to look at. Here's a Chagrid grav sled. I like the idea of a grav sled, but this guy will take lots of cargo, 5,500 kilograms, so a fair amount, 16 tons, but he's going to set you back 309,000 credits. And then, of course, grav tanks and things you shouldn't ordinarily need. But vehicles are something to not forget about as you're equipping your travelers, simply because, ideally, they're going to need a way to get around. If they end up on a planet where they have to go far out into the native bush to secure their goal, whatever that might be, or they just need to get over an intervening mountain range or things like that, grav is definitely something to have. I have had air rafts in my campaigns since there's been a Traveler. It's one of the things I really love about Traveler is the air raft. And I really recommend talking to players into getting one. I would not give them one as a freebie with the ship, though. I would make them spend some hard-earned loot on it. For one thing, it's better storytelling, in my opinion. Another thing is it's a place for them to dump money. And then third, once they've paid for it, they're probably going to take care of it a little bit better than if it's given to them. We all know that's true with kids, and it's certainly true with player characters. So that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I hope you liked the information I gave here. If you did, please leave some comments and like and subscribe. And I'll see you next time on page 121.